Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Lauren Cohen, and I'm the co-director of programming at Miami Film Festival, and I'm joined today by Carlos Tejera, one of our programmers, as well as Abner Benaim, the director of PLAZA CATEDRAL, which is the closing night film of the 39th Miami Film Festival. Thank you for joining us, Abner.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, so we're so excited to have this as our closing night film. It is on the Oscar shortlist. It's Panama's official submission to the Academy Awards. Now it's our closing night film. And as everyone who is our audience at Miami Film Festival knows, when we pick something in a slot like opening and closing, that means it's a really special film. So that's a big congratulations to you and the film. So for those that don't know anything about the movie, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the plot and set the movie up?
So Plaza Catedral is a drama with hints of thriller. It's about this 40-year-old woman who's lost a child, and she's isolated from the world, even from herself in a way, grieving. And there's this kid that she meets in the street where she lives, which is in the Cathedral Square, Plaza Catedral. And it's a kid who keeps an eye on cars or washes them for you. Yeah, and he's always bugging her, give me $1, I'll keep an eye on the car for you. And she keeps a very safe distance from him until one day he comes bleeding to her house and says, help me. So that, it's a film about two people who need each other, but don't really realize it, and about opening up.
Yeah, Abner, I see the film for me had like this operatic buildup of tone. It was honestly reminiscent of like films by like David Fincher and like very intense thrillers like that. And I was wondering how you found that tension and that strong sense of atmosphere in the moments of silence, and what led you to do that for this particular story.
Yeah, well, I do love films like that, psychological thrillers or just emotional thrillers. I don't know what to call them, but so we were going for something very simple, which is to keep the dramatic tension afloat and to say less and to reveal as little as possible, so that we are in constant tension, not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And the film, if we succeeded, then the film takes you in its own path. And it was also it was like that from the script, but it really takes that form in the editing room, when you start cutting out things that are too explicative or that tell you too much about a scene, and then you try and also the acting, Ilse Salas is very restrained. And that's something we talked about a lot, like when does she show what's going on inside her? And to keep that tension going, that balance between, making it boring and nothing happening or telling too much is what we were striving for. I hope we succeeded in finding that.
No, you definitely did, because even in these moments of her might be smoking a cigarette, and then you're like, you just felt like something was bubbling inside of her and inside the story. It's very remarkable and very, like you said, it's such a fine line to balance that I that's one of the first things that popped out for me when I first watched it. I was very absorbed, really is the word, by the atmosphere and the whole tension.
Well, thanks. And that's not all me, of course. That, as I was saying, that's a lot of Ilse and her performance, and also Fernando, but also the music, the editing, the cinematography itself. Everything helps in going in that direction, so if you can stay and look at a frame and something reveals itself little by little, it's also the way we shot it. And I had an incredible team. That's why I'm saying I really had an all-star team from Latin America. The DP, for example, is one of Mexico's best, Lorenzo Hagerman, and the editor is Soledad Salfate from Chile. Like really top-notch people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is really like a two-hander. When you take the two actors, it really, so much of the film is about their interactions with each other and how they play off each other. So how did you go about casting it? I mean, it's really just, they give such incredible performances.
Well, I learned a while ago that in order to direct kids, your most important job as a director is casting them.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very careful to choose the right person for the role of chief, and that was Fernando da Costa. And what we did was open castings in neighborhoods where we were going to shoot, in the kind of neighborhood where a character came from. Um, um, and and he came in and he did a test on video, and he was just great. You know, I was looking for a kid between 13 and 14 years old, at that age where you see a boy, but he feels like a man. You know,
Yeah.
like he's, you know, he's in that particular moment where he, even his voice is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And Fernando had the naturality. You know, he was just a natural in front of the camera. He was very smart, very charismatic. It was the kind of person that would walk into a room and everyone's attention would be on him, and then he would really, you know, be very. It was very easy to love him. So
Yeah.
you know, it was really. We saw almost 200 or 250 kids, but from the first time we saw him, we said, "This is the kid. This is the actor." He never acted before. He was a
Wow.
contemporary dancer, and he would play football, but he never had acted before. So he was just a natural.
That's incredible.
No, it's remarkable how the two actors just played off each other, and like the chemistry was
Unreal.
yes, absolutely.
And Ilse, I mean, you know, I just talked about Fernando. For Ilse, it was a more traditional process where through an agent, we asked her, you know, who are the best actresses in Mexico. They gave me a bunch to watch. I saw Ilse's work and I said, you know, if she says yes, she's my first choice. And she said yes, responded to the script. We met in person maybe one time in Mexico City for lunch, and you know, we got along. We had you know, similar ideas in terms of the film we were making. So it was a very easy process in a way for me once she said yes.
Yeah, no, and you're talking about Ilsa right now, and I think what really for me moved me the most is that the whole movie, because she, like you mentioned, she lost a child. You have this unbearable sense of grief, and it's extremely grounded, extremely real. It doesn't overdo it. And again, that's another fine line to work, because a lot of, especially films that try to portray grief, they do it in exaggerated manners that sometimes don't really communicate the realism of it and the real struggle. And you talked a little bit that you both worked on Restraint, and I wanted to explore a little bit more of that, because for this movie that's so much about grief to feel like such an intense thriller, how like did you find that contrast of subject matters works so well?
Yeah, well, that was a process really in the screen, in the script, you know, in the writing process, that sort of came about organically. I didn't plan it all that much, but I can tell you that we were aiming for realism. I've done a lot of documentary work, and I have that radar in my mind. Even if I'm doing documentary, like I'm always looking for things that feel genuine. And when something feels a little bit exaggerated or off, or something that could be, you know, untrue and on screen, even if it's true, you know, sometimes you're filming the person who was the witness of the story, and he's telling his own story in the place where it happens, and something feels fake. And it may be something about the way he's acting, or the location, or the way you're shooting. So you get a sense of, for that, doing documentary work. And also of course, you know, I'm looking for that when I do fiction. So we were trying to, you know, just make it as real as possible. So I you know, I talked to a lot of people who've been through it. I've talked to, you know, I was also based it on my own experiences, and not, you know, nothing so horrible happened to me, but I've had losses, and I've experienced similar feelings. And then, when it comes to Ilsa's acting, it's all her. I can talk to her about how I see it, but she's the one who actually comes and does it. And I really, I really love her instincts. And we would talk about, how much do we show, how much do we not show, and we tried different things, but usually it would be more towards let's not show. People will understand because as a viewer, I love it when I feel watching a film. You don't want to be spoon fed.
Right.
And I wanted that experience to be like that for viewers of this film. To feel that okay, I'm getting it because not because it was obvious, but because I'm getting it.
Yeah,
And,
like
I think that's
you knew as you were, yeah.
Totally.
That,
So a lot of this film deals with things that are going on in Panama right now. What social issues did you kind of observe that made you want to tackle that in your film?
Yeah, well, there's some things that are, let's say, the context of the film are the social differences, the socio-economic class differences. That gap between the rich and poor is something, not only that you see in Panama, but all of Latin America and, many parts of the world. And it's something that's very obvious in Panama just because it's such a small country. So you see it, it's like right in front of you. You can't not see it in a way. So I wanted to have that in the background. And, at some point it does come to the foreground of the film. But that, and then juvenile delinquency and everything that has to do with growing up in a bad neighborhood and how you're in a way destined to end up in trouble. Many people from the poorer neighborhoods, they know either their neighbor or their cousin or someone who's either in a gang or in jail or dead. It's very, very, very common. And it's not only Panama, it's all over Latin America. And these are things that I've seen with my own eyes and that I know about from the documentary work, from being, in Panama, from living there, and that I wanted to touch upon. So there's a bit of both. There's that context, and I think especially now after what happened, the film's most important message is against violence, and not blaming the kids for what happens to them, but it's not about blame. It's about taking responsibility as a society and trying to make a difference. I'm not an activist. I don't claim to be the one who's going to change the world, but I hope that people get a message from this film that says, we should do something about what's happening to our kids in the poorer neighborhoods because it's an unacceptable situation. Those who don't have opportunities like we do get a really tough
Break.
destiny.
Yeah. No, I mean, that 100%, I think, that's the perfect note to end on, actually, because I think when people see this movie, you may not view yourself as an activist or may not have gone in with that necessarily in your head, but I think it's so impactful and it leaves such a powerful message to every person who sees this movie. And I'm really so honored that it's going to be the closing night film of Miami Film Festival. And to our audience watching, please make sure you buy tickets for Plaza Cathedral for our closing night. You can buy tickets at miamifilmfestival.com. Abner, thank you so much for joining us today.
Abner, what a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.